is no way. It is impossible. Moreover, the CDC on immunization practices, the Executive Secretary, Amanda Cohn, under an emergency use authorization in EUA, vaccines are not allowed to be mandatory. So early in this vaccination phase, individuals will have to be consented and they won't be able to be mandated. Next point here, COVID vaccines cannot be mandatory under Title VII. In general, employee vaccine religious exemption requests must be accommodated where reasonable accommodation exists without need for the employer. Many people hold sincere religious beliefs against taking any vaccines, or taking these derived from aborted fetal cell lines, or taking those sold by companies that profit from the sale of vaccines and other products derived from abortion. Title VII, as amended, prohibits two categories of employment practices. It is unlawful for an employer to fail or refuse to hire or to discharge any individual or otherwise to discriminate against any individual with respect to his compensation, terms, conditions, or privileges of employment. By pattern and practice, virtually every employer in America has shown that reasonable accommodations and alternatives to vaccination indeed exist for employees. And for them to say otherwise right now is a lie. So Liberty Counsel's interpretation of Title VII is also supported to various information that I won't keep on going on about. But this goes for healthcare industry employees. Industry employers. You cannot single out employees for individual questioning or adverse action under the ADA, GINA, Title VII. In interpreting the Americans with Disabilities Act, the ADA, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission has opined that it is improper to ask only one employee as opposed to asking all employees questions designed to determine if he or she has COVID, or require that this employee alone have his temperature taken or undergo other screening or testing. If an employer wishes to ask only a particular employee to answer such questions, or to have his temperature taken, his or her temperature taken, or undergo other screening or testing, the ADA requires the employer to have a reasonable belief based on objective evidence that this person has the disease. EEOC has also stated that an employer may not, quote, ask an employee who is physically coming into the workplace whether they have family members who have COVID or symptoms associated with COVID. As such, this is a violation of the Genetic Information Non-Discrimination Act, otherwise known as GINA. The Occupational Health Administration has also recognized that there is not evidence that COVID vaccines prevent transmission of the virus from person to person, and reiterated that employers should not improperly distinguish between employees. Not distinguishing between workers who are vaccinated and those who are not. Workers who are vaccinated must continue to follow protective measures such as wearing a face covering, remaining physically distant. Because of this, at time, there is not evidence that COVID vaccines prevent transmission of the virus from person to person. This is a Q&A off of OSHA's website, part of the memo. If I require my employees to take the COVID vaccine as a condition of their employment, are adverse reactions to the vaccine recordable? And the answer is, if you require your employees to be vaccinated as a condition of employment, then any adverse reaction to the COVID vaccine is work-related. I'm almost done. Note that for this discretion to apply, the vaccine must be truly voluntary. An employee who chooses not to receive the vaccine cannot suffer any repercussions from this choice. If employees are not free to choose whether or not to receive the vaccine without fearing adverse action, then the vaccine is not merely recommended, and employers should consult the frequently asked questions regarding COVID-19 vaccines that are a condition of employment. So the conclusion of this memo that was sent from Liberty Counsel was that there are strong protections under federal law, existing protections, for persons who wish to decline the current EUA vaccines. Neither government nor private employers may force anyone to receive any of the COVID injections, the jab. I'm not really sure how this is different from the Nuremberg trials. To me, it's parallel, but somehow or another, I think we forget history. And you know what? The old saying, when we forget history, we're doomed to repeat it. So, this is what I'm going to say in wrapping up. There needs to be a call to action. You must stand your ground. You must stand your ground. Do not give in. Do not give in to tyranny.
I stand right here.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you. Exactly. The children next. I told my children, stand. I told my children, you know, I'm not primarily running for myself. I'm running for my children and my grandchildren and the future generations, but it is for the people now. When you give in to tyranny, it is only an encouragement to further encourage them for further tyranny. And if we do nothing and do not actively resist, we have only ourselves to blame for the change that are being forged upon us. Yes, they are tyrants. But if we do not push back, then there is a level of blame that comes back to us. Friends, the signers of the Declaration of Independence knew what they were signing. When they were signing that document, they were signing their lives, their livelihoods, their very well-being, and even to their future generations. They knew that if they lost the war, they knew that King George would hang them. Look, we're not talking about hanging here, but what we are talking about is pushing back. And I'm running across so many people saying, well, I'm going to lose my job. I get it. But the thing is, though, is if we don't push back, then tyranny is won. You can go to my Facebook political page. As I said, I will have this information out on my page, hopefully here in the next couple days. I also want to talk about, you know, so many people scream at their computer. They scream at the TV screen. They scream at these things. They see a video or something, or they say, I hate that, and they see what the absurdity that's going on in our nation. And I know so many of my friends who that's all they do. They just sit back and scream at the computer screen. And they don't get it, and they do something. And what I'm saying is, do something. I have to hear my wife all the time, and she is a warrior. I wouldn't be up here if it wasn't for my wife standing behind me. And first and foremost, I give glory and honor to God, because I wouldn't be standing here as a state representative if it wasn't for God himself. Go ahead and scream at the computer screen. But what I'm asking you is, don't just do that. Get involved in the battle. Push back against tyrannical mandates. Keep on pushing back. Keep on pushing back. The only thing that pushes darkness back is light. Keep on exposing it in every way that you can.